Hello. In this section, I will want to talk about the perception of the international community with respect to the dark-skinned population of countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. Remember to subscribe to my channel on YouTube because I need your support. I need you to get out there and help make a change to better the lives of the poor and defenseless people in Sub-Saharan Africa. It's gone on for far too long. But I also realize that no matter what one says and do, there also must be efforts to sort of alter this perception that people hold in the developed countries abroad. Again, I've said it before. It is unfortunate that when one thinks of helping the poor, that there is some sort of sympathy, empathy towards the poor. And therefore, I would think that if someone is poor, that they would gain other people's sympathy in wanting to help them out of their poverty. It is the law of nature that when you see someone who is less fortunate as you are, that you would want to reach out and give a helping hand. Unfortunately, my little research and study tells me that it is the opposite for the dark-skinned population in Sub-Saharan Africa. And why that is, I do not know. The interesting thing is that I do not believe that this is going to be easily accepted to many. Most probably because they would not believe that this is so. Others would not, because they themselves do their best in helping out. But sometimes I see things and hear things in developed countries. And when I say that, I'm talking of countries in Europe, countries in even in the Middle East and North America, actually everywhere. Because what's been going on for so long is that this negative image, which is now become picturestic in people's minds, has turned to be more like negative rather than to help them out. I think people equate the long standing image of poverty in dark-skinned population countries in Sub-Saharan Africa to something else. And this might not easily be admitted in people's minds. But I'm very sure that the sort of poverty relating and equating with the societies or the dark-skinned societies in Sub-Saharan Africa is understood in some way. I dare say that there are many who conclude that, oh, these Africans, they can't do anything for themselves. These Africans, they are unintelligent. These Africans, they only depend on aid and help from us. Why don't they do anything for themselves? Why can't they come out with something positive? It is unfortunate that it is so, but it is time that the international community realizes that this picture ain't being fair to the people in sub-Saharan African countries, because it's a one-sided picture, and that is my goal. My goal for my book and all the effort that I'm making is to try and transcend beyond this image, because that's not so. It is not so. Africans, in inverted commas, begin and close, Africans have become a goal for so long and unfairly treated. If we do not do anything, it's going to get worse. It's already gotten worse. I remember that many years ago, for example, when Ghana had its independence in 1957 and started relations with many other countries in the West, especially in the East as well. At the time, it was quite sort of acceptable to receive students from Ghana and later other sub-Saharan African countries into the communities in England, in the United States, in Germany, in other European countries to study. This was a very positive side that the international community was introduced to, and very positive. I remember very well of stories that I've heard from people in Norway, in Denmark, in Germany, in the United States, of the very warm invitation they gave to the then students from African countries who came over to study on usually government bilateral arrangements of some sort. It was an experience of high propulsion, of positivity. But then came, unfortunately, these negative developments, coup d'etats in countries, militaries toppling, democratically elected governments, and so on and so forth. So the negativity and this negative picture began to take shape when all these pictures started coming up, because then came the effects of the wars, then came the effects of those militaries taking over, which ended up in dictatorship and all that kind of thing. So the positive image that had already been created during the pro-independent African countries era was gradually diminishing and being overtaken by negative stories. And of course, beyond and behind these negative stories were positive stories, but that was not that interesting to the media at large. So these negative images started taking shape gradually, and it became bigger and bigger and formed its own world. And now Africa, and again I always need to emphasize this, Africa is stigmatized, and is stigmatized to the point where there seems to be no sympathy anymore, because it's been left over to the crooks, the corrupt leaders, and the greedy business people abroad, the corrupt leaders in these African countries, and the greedy, shrewd business and governments abroad, because they're all taking a bite of this wonderful, wonderful pie down there, which is wealth, the gold, the oils, the rich mineral resources that are coming out in enhancing the computer technology world, the IT world, creating wars in those countries that harbor and have these resources, and the world not really caring as such. Violence brings violence and nobody cares. It is the stigmatization which needs to be fought from every angle. Wherever it raises its head, it must be fought. It is about time that the international community know that in various sub-Saharan African countries there are universities, there are high institutions of learning, there are progress, there are schools for children and hospitals, even though it is true that they are not on the level to be a par with what we see in the developed countries, but still they are there. So this picture of kids or the organizations always coming into the international media, sort of appealing and begging for help for Africa, showing these pictures as if this has created a very, very typical stereotype image that the Africans have nothing, and it's working against them. How grotesque that is, I don't understand. Because if you are poor, the sympathy should be on your side and create something positive. In other words, the results must be positive. But in the case of Africa, it is not so. Being poor actually is negative in the sense that it has been ongoing for so long that it has turned out to be giving off negative results and conclusions. People around the world are tired. Some people are actually immune to this, and therefore it's left now to the United Nations and to the various humanitarian organizations who are really enjoying the benefits of such status. Recently there is a documentary that I have seen relating to how the status in most of these poverty-ridden societies, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, is immensely profitable to by and large a huge population around the world. I was very surprised to hear a politician from an European country, which I don't want to mention, or rather he was supposed to be the so-called wise man advising the government, and he came on the screen to tell his countrymen his major worry, and his major worry is the eventual. I mean, he's thinking in terms of the current status in Europe relating to the influx of refugees. Refugees coming from Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all other places. But his main worry is, they should take this seriously, and all of those so-called warm-hearted people should reconsider that the major threat is the eventual migration of Africans. And I always want to say this, that this is a threat. And why is that a threat? Because the same Africans whose image has been painted so bad are not supposed to come over here. No, we don't want them here. So this is a threat. Imagine that. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do something about it. Let us do something about it. Go on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, and let us move forward. You get some more of this. Thank you.